Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to test if this is working. Am I audible at the back? It's good. All right. Thank you very much, members of the media, for making yourselves available this morning, this Monday morning, where the ANC is continuing with its program of unpacking the 2024 Elections Manifesto. You will recall that we have already unpacked priority number 1, priority number 2, and priority number 3. We're now proceeding to unpack priority number 4, which is named investing in our people. But before I hand over to Comrade Park Stow, who is going to read on behalf of the collective, read out our priority related to investing in our people, I want to just introduce comrades that are joining me this morning. Comrade Park Stow, member of the NEC, the chairperson of a subcommittee. Comrade David Mahlobo, member of the NEC, who also serves in government in the Department of Water and Sanitation. Of course, Comrade Park Stow is also well known to you as a public deployee who serves in the Department of Cocktail. I also want to introduce to my right, he's not very right or right-wing, Comrade Buti Manamela, who also is a member of several subcommittees, including the NEC subcommittee on communication. I won't mention all of them, but also is deployed by the ANC in the Department of Higher Education in the capacity of the Deputy Minister. So just before I hand over to Comrade Parks, I just want to start off by speaking to some of the issues in the political environment. At the outset of this press briefing, we wish to express our heartfelt sympathy to the families, friends, and communities of those who sustained injuries en route to the Inkatha Freedom Party manifesto launch at Moses Mabhida Stadium a week ago. Our thoughts are still with each individual affected during this unfortunate incident, and we extend our sincere wishes for their rapid and full recovery. Similarly, we condemn in the strongest terms the misuse of a commemorative event such as the celebration of His Majesty King Dinizulu Kaxejwayo's war and the exploits during the 110th anniversary of the late Zulu King Dinizulu Kaxejwayo. This event was attended by President Cyril Ramaphosa and His Majesty King Misizulu kaZwelithini at KwaXeza, kilometers away from Ulundi at the weekend. The exploitation of traditional functions to advance political agendas of parties tainted by historical grievances is deplorable. As the ANC, we unequivocally affirm our support for traditional institutions and leaders, including the reigning monarch of the Zulu nation. His Majesty King Misizulu kaZwelithini. Our steadfast support for these institutions remains unwavering, and we shall not be swayed by those entrenched in yesterday's politics, seeking to meddle in the affairs of traditional leadership for short-term political gains. We recognize the vital role that traditional institutions and their leaders play in our societal fabric, serving not only as custodians of our rich heritage, but also as crucial partners in our nation's development and governance. It is our belief that respecting and upholding these institutions is paramount to fostering unity, cultural pride, and social cohesion among our people. Therefore, the ANC commits to working collaboratively with traditional leaders, ensuring that their invaluable insight and leadership continue to guide community development, while also respecting the autonomy and sanctity of traditional institutions. We stand firm in our conviction that the future of South Africa's growth and prosperity is intrinsically linked to a harmonious partnership between government and traditional leadership, one that respects the past while boldly stepping into the future. These were just some of the reflections we wanted to make about recent developments. At this point, I now call upon Comrade Parkstow to read out the statement that is going to go and dive deeper into issues that are contained in our manifesto, priority number 4, investing in our people. Comrade Parks.
Thank you very much, Comrade Mahlengi. Good morning to members of the panel, members of the media, and all colleagues here present. As you would know, 2 weeks ago, the ANC launched its manifesto at the Maihlome rally that took place at Moses Mabhida Stadium. We'd like to thank all those comrades and members of the public that joined us as we launched our manifesto and indeed launched our campaign for the 2024 national and provincial elections. We do not take for granted the efforts made by our people to join us and to hear the message from the President of our commitments in the next elections. But this was preceded a few months ago by a process with which we engaged with the public in relation to an evaluation of our implementation of the manifesto of the current administration. We went throughout the length and breadth of our country, talking to the people of this country about how far we've come, the work that has been done, what challenges there might have been, and how indeed we would need to improve on it. We're reminiscent about the groundbreaking announcements made by President Nelson Mandela in 1994 to implement the Reconstruction and Development Program. These initiatives included providing free health care for pregnant women and children under 6, offering free housing for the impoverished, and the extensive rollout of water, sanitation, electricity, to those previously disadvantaged. Our efforts have encompassed the promotion and protection of various groups such as workers, women, the youth, people with disabilities, children, LGBTQI plus community, and senior citizens anchored in the Bill of Rights in our Constitution. The 2024 manifesto builds on the achievements of the past 30 years of democracy to tackle numerous challenges that persist despite these successes. Consequently, the 2024 manifesto aims to consolidate the democratic gains since 1994, underscoring our continuous commitment to investing in our people and ensuring their well-being and prosperity. It is upon the indomitable spirit and the unyielding courage of our people that the foundation of our freedom was built. Throughout the darkest moments of our history, it was the masses who bravely confronted the brutal apartheid regime, refusing to be silenced and subdued. In the statement, we continue to recognize epochal moments in the struggle for our freedom as this country. Starting with the Sharpeville massacre, the formation of Umkhonto weSizwe, the People's Army, the Soweto uprising, and many other epochal moments in the struggles for freedom of this country. Indeed, we say that freedom itself was not free, and many lost life and limb in the process of us struggling for the freedom of this country. As the governing party, we are dedicated to honoring the legacy of the people of our country and their sacrifices. Our mission is rooted in the historical imperative to lift every South African out of the shadows of the past into the light of a prosperous, equitable future. Investing in our people means prioritizing education, healthcare, economic empowerment, and social security. It means creating opportunities that allow every South African to realize their full potential, contributing to the nation's growth and prosperity. Together as the ANC and the people of South Africa, we shall rise to the challenge of our time, inspired by our shared history and united in our pursuit of a brighter, more inclusive future. We will invest in South Africa's people by improving access to quality education and health, expanding the use of science and technology, and ensuring that all people have decent housing and basic services. Today we stand on the precipice of a new dawn brought forth by the unwavering spirit and resilience of the South African people. It is in that spirit, it is a spirit that has, through the ages, confronted the scourge of apartheid with stoic resolve and overcome the adversities that would have faltered lesser nations. In this enduring spirit, the African National Congress reaffirms its commitment to the most valuable asset of our nation, and that is its people. In our quest to prepare our youth for the challenges and opportunities of the Fourth Industrial Revolution, the ANC has embarked on a bold journey to harness the potential of information and communication technologies. This particularly in education. The provision of assistive devices and connectivity to 435 public schools, special schools, is a step towards an inclusive educational system that leaves no learner behind. Furthermore, the introduction of the coding and robotics curriculum for grades R to 3 across selected schools nationwide is a pioneering initiative aimed at nurturing the innovators and technologists of tomorrow. The cornerstone of our educational achievements lies in the unwavering dedication and professionalism of our teachers. Through initiatives such as Funza Lushaka Bursary Scheme, which has produced an average 4,300 graduates annually since 2013, we reaffirm our commitment to fostering a new generation of passionate and qualified educators. These educators are the lifeblood of our education system, shaping the minds and futures of our youth. Now I'm going specifically to the contents of the manifesto and the commitments that we're making. And this is the fourth priority, to invest in our people. The African National Congress commits to enhancing the lives of South Africans by significantly improving access to quality education and health care, expanding the use of science and technology, and ensuring that all citizens enjoy decent housing and essential services. In this regard, the ANC will grant national and provincial government greater responsibility to support municipalities that are struggling to provide services to communities. Will hold public representatives and employees accountable for delivering basic services to communities as outlined in our 2021 manifesto. We will monitor implementation through the local government monitor and act against public representatives who are not performing, which may include their recall. I think it's important at this point to also emphasize the point that through our local government intervention team, we are interacting with municipalities across the country and ensuring that the appropriate support is provided to these. This includes a team that currently is engaging with municipalities in KZN, a team of the NEC that's engaging with the municipalities in KZN, including eThekwini, Msunduzi, and other municipalities that are under the leadership of the African National Congress. So we are implementing our manifesto of 2021 to provide greater support and to intervene when necessary in ANC-led municipalities. With regards to providing clean water for all, the ANC will empower national and provincial governments to intervene and provide clean water where municipalities are struggling, build maintenance capacity, and complete water infrastructure projects. We'll separate water services authorities from water service providers to improve efficiency. We will ensure proper planning and investment to meet immediate and future sanitation needs. We'll complete major dams and water schemes within the next 5 years to ensure sustainable access to water for a growing population, including the Umzimvubu and Umkomazi dams and raising the Glen William and Zanin dam walls, amongst others. We will assist municipalities through our public employment projects to fix water leaks. With regards to transportation, the ANC will use public employment programs to fix potholes, pave roads, and maintain community and rural roads, as well as other road infrastructure. We'll ensure a greater role for the South African National Roads Agency in road maintenance and extension in towns and rural areas. We'll fast-track the reinstatement of all existing passenger rail lines, provide security for rail infrastructure and passengers, and develop further passenger rail networks, including high-speed rail. We'll strengthen the taxi industry, including formalization, support taxi ownership and businesses in their industry value chains, promote community safety, and move towards subsidization of taxi commuters. With regards to education and skills, education, health, science, and technology are key areas through which the ANC pledges to continuously transform society for the better. A comprehensive framework for the transformation of basic education, the post-school education and training system, health, and our systems of innovation has been established. This process has seen great advancements as well as setbacks. In this regard, the ANC will ensure universal access to quality early childhood development by 2030. Foster a culture of reading, numeracy, and technological skills. Expand skills development programs in emerging fields such as data analytics and artificial intelligence. Strengthen the post-school education and training sector through better coordination, responsiveness to labor market needs, and improved quality throughput and access. Expand vocational and technical training in schools and post-school institutions, and build additional TVET and community colleges. Fast-track the public provision of student residences using current expenditure on subsidies from NSFAS to address the backlog in student accommodation. Offer more digital learning opportunities, invest in specialist medical training, and promote second chance and lifelong learning opportunities. With regard to healthcare, the ANC will promote healthy lifestyles and preventative healthcare campaigns. We'll more decisively move towards implementing the National Health Insurance, strengthening health infrastructure, training personnel, and creating a single electronic health record. Expand the Ideal Clinic program to improve the quality of care. Strengthen financial management and supply chain management in public health institutions. Collaborate with other countries on research and development of traditional medicine. Leverage new technologies like telemedicine and artificial intelligence in healthcare. With regards to science and innovation for development, The ANC will support innovation on green technologies, climate change adaptation and mitigation, and decarbonization programs. We will increase research and development spending and priority areas like industrialization, climate change, and technologies such as virtual reality, augmented reality, blockchain, artificial intelligence, and the Internet of Things. Foster the development of new and existing industries, increase patent development, and strengthen local innovation systems, including green energy technologies. Contribute to the African Union's goal of producing 100,000 PhD graduates in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics in the next decade. With regard to building more houses and access to services, the ANC will continue building subsidized housing for vulnerable groups. Increase land availability near economic centers for youth, military veterans, and seniors. Establish a human settlements bank for affordable financing. Upgrade informal settlements and provide basic services. Strengthen the regulation of rental prices and protect consumers. Improve access to clean water and increase bulk water infrastructure. Expand sanitation access through alternative technologies. Address challenges with wastewater treatment plants. Ensure safe drinking water and prevent pollution of water sources. Will manage rapid urbanization through a sustainable model of compact, connected cities and towns, including the development of new cities and towns. The ANC remains steadfast in its commitment to the people of South Africa, guided by the principles of inclusivity, progress, and shared prosperity. Our manifesto reflects not only the aspirations and voices of the nation, but also our unwavering dedication to addressing the challenges and opportunities facing our society. Through comprehensive initiatives spanning education, health, housing, and support for vulnerable groups, we aim to build a future where every South African can thrive and contribute to the nation's development. Let us forge ahead, inspired by the vision of a better tomorrow and a shared commitment. Let's do more together. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Comrade Parks. I did want to not to deny two of my comrades in case there is any comment to make. Otherwise, you'll be happy to take questions. Okay, thank you very much. I am going to turn to yourselves, members of the media, with the questions. And perhaps to set us going on that, I hope this mic is working. I am going to take a question that has been sent by Business Day, Thando Mayeko. Please ask the panel to expand on the commitment to give national and provincial governments greater responsibilities to support municipalities that struggle to provide services to communities. What would this look like? Most municipalities in South Africa are underperforming. Does this mean we could see more implementation of Section 139 across municipalities? That is a question from Thando Mayeko, Business Day. I want to turn to colleagues. I just wanted to make sure that I don't lose it in the process of taking questions from media colleagues who are here in the room. Can I, yes, Debu?
Okay, good morning. My name is Debu, and I'm with the SABC. I've seen that you spoke about investing in people and of course with education and with access to healthcare at the center of this investment in the people of South Africa. And everything itself is what you say. But South Africans are asking themselves, I mean, for the past 30 years, this dream or the ANC has been in government for the past 30 years. But if you look at its track record over the past 30 years, it's only the children of poor people that have access to this, I would say, bad education system. I don't think anyone seated that in this panel, their children have access to that education that the very same ministers who are telling us about access to education are presiding over. They don't take that system. You talk about the health system in South Africa. It's only the poor that have to eat around 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning at Baragwana. They have access to health care. So how then do you want to convince South Africans that after 30 years of all this, there is something good in the offering for them?
Thank you very much. Do I have another question? Do I have another question? We will tackle those two. I think one has a lot to do with education, and then the other a lot to do with the state of fixing local government. I'll start with you.
Thank you. I think with regards to education, I'm a parent, Debo, and I have a daughter who went to a public school, who also went to a public university, who's still currently studying at a public university. And I think I'm saying this not to personalize it, and I didn't choose to take her to a public school or a public university because I'm trying to patronize South Africans about the quality of the education system that we have in the public service, but it's because I'm confident of the qualitative transformation that has occurred in terms of the education at basic education and also at higher education. So that's at a personal level, and I'm responding this question in this way because that's the way in which you posed the question. Secondly, the matric results on an annual basis when they are released, and I think there has been a discussion about whether we should have one announcement of all the national results because there is no separate examinations written by independent examination board compared to those who go to a public school. I think that's a debate for another day. But that distinction in terms of the release of the results of those two by those two bodies has got nothing to do with the quality. In fact, in comparison, many of the high-performing students are from public schools. So the very same examination that kids in public schools sit for are the same examinations that kids in private schools sit for, because there's just one regulatory body or single regulatory bodies for examination. So there's no distinction in terms of quality, there's no distinction in terms of examination, in terms of assessment. It is one examination, it is one result, it is one textbook, it is, And yes, of course, we cannot deny the fact that because the people who take kids to private institutions are, in many instances, wealthy households, we cannot deny that they put in additional resources in those private institutions. But looking at what we have prioritized over the last 30 years, we are confident of the quality in the overall that comes, with the education that kids get in the public school, and that's why they're competing for sports in universities and in TVET colleges. It is because they have a certificate like anybody else, and I think it's unfair to try and perpetuate a narrative that suggests that public schools education is of inferior quality. Public schools, wherever, there are schools in rural areas which performs even far better than schools in urban areas. And of course, it's not competition, it's a whole lot of factors, but there has been a lot of change over the last 30 years that has happened in education. And the same applies in public health. Some of the best facilities, Baragwanath, for instance, is one of the leading facility in some of the major, treatment. And that's why people go there, whether people have got medical aids or not. That's why they go there, to Baragwanath Hospital and to some of the public hospitals that we have. So I don't think that it's a genuine comparison of public service institutions. Yes, there will always be, as long as we are obviously committed to ensure that when people go to public hospitals or any public service institution, that they do not spend as much time as they do in those institutions, and that they get quality treatment in those institutions. It's obviously a big challenge that we have. The same applies with universities and TVET colleges. There would always be a challenge in terms of distributing the number of students who qualify from grade 12 to go to TVET colleges or to universities. And there's a huge demand, for public service, and that's why our commitment is to make sure that services that are provided in those institutions are of a quality nature. Thank you.
No, thank you very much, Comrade Mahlengi and Comrade Parks and Comrade Wood. Maybe just to add on your question, we must never understate the advances that this ANC government has done in the last 30 years. When you look at the health infrastructure, like Comrade Budi has said, there have been massive investment. So that when the population has grown, and in many communities, whether you look at community health facilities, all of them, including the number of best hospitals that are actually being built, so that the right to have access to health services for South Africans remains a reality. Step by step and brick by brick, we are realizing those rights. Go to Limpopo, the best medical facility, actually even the university now has a medical school. You can see the best hospitals that are being built in all other provinces, including in terms of access, in terms of hours, ensuring that there is support around in terms of infrastructure development. Go to many issues of education. We have built 2 universities as this government. I don't want to count the number of schools, especially for communities, including in farming community, the best schools, where children are taken to boarding schools, removed from an environment where they will not be able to have the right to learn. And those communities, they are very grateful. They say we need to do more and more, including with other people that are living with disabilities, special schools. There is a lot of investment. But you could even see the investment on human development, the number of people that are being trained to work there. Remember recently in the health facilities or in the health sector, the question of the medical doctors has been addressed, because we wanted to have medical doctors, we wanted to have the nurses and so forth. There's a lot that is being done, including the advancement in science and technology. And building on the work that we did during COVID-19. Remember COVID-19, how we're able to deal with the question of pandemic, around infrastructure, around issues of getting support like medication and so forth. Our ability is still there. Therefore, we should not be able to reduce and say is only for a particular grouping. We are doing it for all South Africans. Comrade but we are correct. Many of us, even my own family, still use public health facilities. They are the best. There are weaknesses that the ANC is attending to, and it's normally for any system. Our own children and my own family, they are also in the public schools, and they are doing very well. But on this question around support and intervention, one of the things that we have said that we'll have to do in intervening and supporting local government, there are certain instruments that are there that are provided by law. The example of Section 139 in the Constitution, where there are different tenets there where you could intervene either by taking over the authority of the administration, whether of the executive, but there's also the issues around looking at issues of financial management. But the most important issue that this government will have to be able to continue to support local government as required by Section 154 of our Constitution. But there have been some problems. Over the last 30 years, we've done an assessment. There are certain municipalities that have not been doing well, and the right to access to basic services for South Africans have been compromised or violated, and in certain instances, people died. An example where we wanted to intervene in Tshwane as an example, when they could not discharge their responsibility to provide services. They went to court when the province wanted to intervene, and we could not be able to come in and deal with that particular situation. Rightly so, they were right to go to court. But ultimately, what happened? We lost many lives. Currently, as we stand, those of us who are deployed in government, for us to be able to intervene if there's a water crisis, we need to have a prerequisite, which is Section 139. Comrade Dawu will come in, but we can't do Section 63 around water services intervention. And that's why when Comrade Dawu spoke here earlier on, if you don't want to cooperate, we want to enforce the law, that we can be able to come in. And that's why there's a legislation already in Parliament, in the review of the legislation, our Water Services Act, so that we don't need any other thing. You don't discharge your responsibility. That's the reform that we're actually proposing. We come in, Mfuleni, they volunteered to help them. Currently, the problem of sewer in those communities is being addressed. They volunteered. We impose Section 63. You go to Emma Chabeng in Velcom, they volunteered. It works when there is a goodwill. But immediately there's a theft, and the people are actually suffering because certain people are choosing on the basis of theft that who runs the institution. They say national government must not come in. There must be a probability that national government must be able to come in. The very same thing that used to have problems in Nelson Mandela Bay. Nelson Mandela Bay, they were able to cooperate. Today we are not talking about close to day zero, and our interventions have worked. And then the other reform that we are doing for local government is around the question of ensuring that even if you have the powers, if you can't do your job, in the water space, one reform that is being introduced is the question of a water service provider. That even if you have the authority, have a dedicated entity that will do the job, and that's how we actually want to come in, because at the end of the day, if one sphere of government does not discharge its responsibility, the other spheres cannot be sitting there and become an observer in terms of those particular issues. But there's a lot of reforms around infrastructure. We wanted to actually make it mandatory. The neglect of operations and maintenance is one of our biggest problems. And we want to make it mandatory in terms of our own regulations so that we don't have infrastructure failure, whether it's water, is it sanitation, whether it's roads. Therefore, these reforms must be highly welcomed. But the tenets of the Constitution around support, which is 154, working through the implementation model, which is the DDM model, which is the district development model, those are some of those particular issues, because at the end of the day, no South African will be left behind on the basis that certain institutions are actually unable to do their job. The last point, Comrade Mahleng, I think we need to mention. One reform that we must conclude and discuss is the fiscal regime. The attitude to say that if you don't pay, if you don't spend it, you lose it. In other words, if a municipality or a province does not actually perform, the money gets to be redirected to other organizations that are performing. In other words, citizens in that province or in that locality, they will have a double jeopardy. One, the money is taken away, they are denied the service, their institution has collapsed, it can't work. And we are looking at a mechanism that if those institutions can't work, the implementation model around direct grants that must be given to this institution, they must be converted into indirect grants so that we can be in a position to get a vehicle that will be able to implement on their behalf so that those citizens in those localities are not left behind. Those are some of the issues that I thought when we speak about reform, there's a plethora of them, sector by sector, that are going to be introduced. And some of them are currently underway. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a few quick additions. As you were talking, I was starting to think, which country am I in? Because we live in a country where you run news articles and stories about our hospitals sometimes being overwhelmed because people come from other countries in search of better health care. That's this South Africa and this health system in this South Africa. And I'm saying this because sometimes when we reflect on where we have come from and where we are, we don't always reflect on the reality of the investments and experiences of the people of this country. So when we're talking about a healthcare system that's almost, you said, collapsed?
No, I didn't say collapsed.
Okay, but something close to that.
Access by the way.
So, and I was simply just making the point to emphasize that it is a health system that is demanded by people who are even outside this country, that say, if I need better health care, I have a better chance by going to South Africa. It's an education system that has produced doctors, scientists, and so on, from the townships, from the rural schools. So we can't say the school system has collapsed, or it's bad, because it can't be true. Is it a difference between a public school in a suburb and a public school in the township? Is that the comparative? Is it a comparative between a private school or a public school? And I think Comrade Buti explained these matters to say, but it's the same education system. But for some reason, we convince ourselves that there is an inferior education system in the townships and a better education system somewhere else. It's the same curriculum. It's the same teachers that go through Funza Lushaka and are produced as graduates, as teachers in our schooling system. And they teach in the same system. So I thought it's just a point of emphasis on points that had already been raised. I think with regards to municipalities, the first point I think we made is that we are taking a more direct approach to how we engage with municipalities. I indicated that we have colleagues, comrades who are members of the MEC that have gone to KZN today, and we've been doing it throughout the country, engaging with the municipalities, identifying where the bottlenecks are, what the challenges are, and how we respond to them, providing the support and ensuring that where government needs to come in, that we're able to mobilize government, both provincial and national, to come in and assist. So it's not always punitive. It's not always, yes, there's a problem, we're going to dissolve you or appoint an administrator or this, that, or the other. It's not always a punitive approach. It is about ensuring that where the support required by municipalities, that support is provided, and where there's capacity requirements, that the capacity is necessarily sent to municipalities. But in instances where there is underperformance, yes, whilst we build capacity, we equally have a responsibility to the peoples of that jurisdiction to ensure that they are able to receive services. And thus, as Comrade Mahlobo is saying, there are instances where national government comes in and appoints a water board. In this instance, Rand Water has been appointed to go into Emfuleni and to help resolve the problems in Emfuleni, take over some of the functions and ensure execution of responsibilities. The same in Machabeng, Val Central. Water is in Machabeng, taking the responsibility to ensure that the challenges faced by the people in Machabeng, in Velkom, Odendalsres, and others are being addressed. So as I said, it's not always punitive. It is taking direct interest in ensuring that people are able to receive the services that they require. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Comrade from the panel. I want to just check if there are any questions. I'll take newsroom.
Thank you. Junior Kumar from Newsroom Africa. My apologies, I got here a bit late, so maybe this might have been discussed. But I just wanted to find out, at a local government level, has the ANC spoken about some of its coalitions that are not working, especially in Joburg? Right now we see there's a water crisis, but also there seems to be a leadership vacuum, where the mayor took a few days to even address the issue of having a crisis when it comes to water. In Ekurhuleni as well, we saw the audit outcomes that have come out. And just 2 weeks ago, the president himself said that the current coalition is not working. So is there any discussion that says we are leaving this coalition agreement with some of these partners because it's not working for the people? Or what is happening there at a political level? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have another question? Deborah?
Again. That's it now. You said, I don't want to make this thing, I'm sorry, I don't want to make this thing, but you said, when I was asking a question, you thought, you asked yourself, which country are we in? Yes, we're in South Africa. The question that I was asking is, if for instance, as you said that maybe within a different country, the question is, if you have dozens of Kundis getting out of the township to a better school in the suburb, is this not a problem for our government? And if, let's say, for instance, we say, from 2016, around 78% of black learners couldn't read for me, and that number has increased to around 81%. Is this not a crisis? And if you can say, grade 4 learners who can't read at all, the percentage has increased from 18 to 27, 21 to around 27%. Is that not a crisis? That's the question that I was trying to pose. That in fact, over the past 30 years, a lot has been done, and no one is disputing it. But this is the crisis that people are facing. And the people that are imbibing that kind of knowledge or education, I'm sorry, these are black learners, these are black children, and they are kids cannot afford. And when we talk about access to health care, I understand that you said that you're going to these public facilities. But I mean, at a public facility, there is something called quality. That's where normally our nurses, our ministers, they will go to quality. Not to a hospital in the
Thank you very much. I'm also going to request Comrade Mahlobo just to provide some reassurance message to South Africans about matters pertaining to water, with a specific focus on here in Gauteng, as well as matters related to eThekwini. I know we mentioned it in passing, but perhaps we can just strengthen that area. There's another area that has been raised in SMS messages from some of our media colleagues who are attending other national events related to NSFAS. I'm going to ask Comrade Buti to give South Africans a sense of the urgency with which matters of governance, matters of management and operations are being taken care of in as far as the administration of the funding that goes through the NSFAS. I will start with Comrade Parks in terms of responding to these, and then we'll go to Comrade Mahlobo, and then we'll end with Comrade Buti, after which we will then drive the thing to a close.
Thank you very much. In our manifesto, we are committing to implementing the national health insurance. So in essence, making Fullerton the standard for everybody. That's what the national health insurance system is about. So when we're talking about its implementation, it's about doing exactly. It's about ensuring insurance for those who are uninsured. Because in reality, and many of us in this room probably have a medical aid scheme, but many of us also claim tax benefits from medical aid. So in essence, it is a subsidized scheme itself. And all we're saying is that let's ensure equitable access to health for all the people of this country through a national health insurance scheme. That's our commitment in the manifesto. And when I responded, I wasn't suggesting that there aren't any challenges. I was simply saying that we can't sit and suggest that, in fact, the system is not working. And let's talk about education. You know, my constituency is in Roodepoort. And we visit the schools there, the public schools there, all the time. But many of the learners are actually from Soweto. But they are going to a public school in the suburb. It's the same curriculum is the point we're making. It's the teachers that are produced in the same system. When you look at the matric results and you look at the distinctions that come from township-based schools and rural schools, it can't be that those schools are doing something that's not working. It must be because they are writing the same exam that school has produced a learner that's able to get the distinctions that we get in that system. With regards to coalitions, the National Executive Committee has established a coalitions task team, so there's a committee chaired by the Secretary General that's focusing on coalitions. It continuously receives reports. I know there was a meeting last week with Gauteng, the leadership of Gauteng, to engage us of matters related to coalitions, in particular in Gauteng. So we are taking a direct interest on these matters, and those discussions are ongoing with the Gauteng province, but also with other provinces. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Comrade Matling and the other comrades. The situation for water in Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal, especially eThekwini, firstly, we need to indicate that we understand the anger and the agitation by many communities that are denied their basic right to have access to water. And the problem that we are facing now, there are a number of challenges that these metros are facing, including other areas that we might not refer to. one of our biggest issues that we want to indicate that all these municipalities in Gauteng, those of us deployed in government, our ministry, has decided that because these metros, they are struggling to perform this function, we have agreed with them to deploy our water boards, and very capable water boards, which is rainwater for all the municipalities in Gauteng, working with the 3 metros and the others. But the Metro of Johannesburg, we know they have their own entity called Johannesburg Water. eThekwini, we've deployed Umgeni, Uthukela Water Board to support them. But specifically in Gauteng, there have been a number of challenges. One, the system that is providing water was unstable because of an inclement weather condition that happened where lightning struck one of our biggest pump stations, Enkenhof. And when it struck, it took more than 3 days just to be able to fix that particular strike in terms of the electrical problems. And that period, the reservoirs, they went down. And then subsequently to that, there was a power feed from Johannesburg that also went down, and it took 1 or 2 days to fix it. But what are we actually doing now is that the technical teams, both here in Gauteng and in KZN, they are meeting twice on daily basis. When they are meeting twice on daily basis, is to monitor the vulnerability of the system. In the main, they are monitoring the levels of reservoirs, because if reservoirs are below 60% in terms of their holding capacity, therefore a number of areas the pressure will be very low, and when we are in the high-lying areas, the water will not be in a position you will not be able to receive water. And when there is load shedding, and how are we managing the issues of synchronization, when to pump, that's what we call it, the management of the night flows, so that you don't have a problem that because load shedding is very scheduled, then you know the pumping capacity and the introduction of the pressure reducing valves. That's more at a technical level that they need to do. But all these municipalities, there is one common denominator. The water losses, they are very high. Example, here in Johannesburg, we lose more than 44%, either through because the infrastructure is old and illegal connections. And we've agreed with them now, because even yourselves and citizens, you could see water running in the street. That water that is running in the street is clean water. And that drop of water is required by someone somewhere else, and it must be paid for. We've agreed that maintenance teams, so that whenever there's a problem that is being reported, is being fixed, and these teams are on the ground to respond more positive. And it's an important intervention that we are actually proceeding to do. But going forward, Johannesburg Water, as an entity of Johannesburg, just to address the current operation and maintenance issues, they need billions and billions of rands, 27 billion just currently, just so that they are able to ensure that these disruptions and failures that they are not there. But we know that Rainwater has also put their own money, above 40 billion rands. We have increased our pump stations, whether this side of Ekurhuleni and elsewhere, so that our people can be able to get water. What we are calling for, there are 2 issues. We are calling for that the political leadership of these municipalities, they must be transparent. They must not run away from communicating with citizens, and they must communicate directly with the citizens. They must not run away. Because if they run away, citizens are left in the dark. We don't know when water is going to be returning. An example, people of Bronkhorstspruit, they are still unable to go to school, those young children, in certain instances. Water is not running there. The leadership in that municipality is not engaging with them until us as national government, we go and engage. When water is provided in a temporary measure, irrespective which municipality, the temporary measure must never become permanent. In other words, when you use water cutting, the water cuts, they must get the water from points where the quality can be guaranteed, that the quality is good. Then the water must never be sold. There is a black market of selling water, and it must not happen. And the schedule, when is the tanker going to come in a particular street or a particular village, that time must be clearly defined, working with communities. In other words, in each community, we must have what we call it water committees. But therefore, it's going to be important that we share that information. What are the level of reservoirs? When there are leaks, what are we doing? The last point is the role of communities. Communities, they too must play a role. Currently, we know there's an inclement weather condition, is very, very hot, and people must hydrate. And you can't hydrate when there's no water. But at the very same time, there are issues of water use inefficiencies, where people are just cleaning their pavements. They are actually watering the gardens. They are using the hose pipe to do certain things. Our behavior of using water sparingly is going to be important. But as Comrade Tawe has said, currently the local government intervention team is working with the Metro of eThekwini and other municipalities in KZN. Currently our teams are working with Tshwane, they are working with Ekurhuleni, they are working with Joburg, and we want to appeal to communities to say, let's work together. But going forward, we'll be able to build more around that. The current infrastructure cannot be allowed to fail or to collapse. That's why the issues of mandatory O&M issues that Comrade Tau spoke about, 10% of grants must be set aside to ensure that O&M is not neglected. The big money of income they get from water sales, a biggest percentage must be ring-fenced and ensure that that particular percentage must be able to be invested back in terms of the areas where are required, so that you can be able to sweat the infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, just 2 points. I think the first one is in relation to the question about coalitions. And just to say, firstly, that I think we've seen the fact that coalition governments in Johannesburg, in Ekurhuleni, and in most of the areas basically bring a lot of anxiety. People wake up today, there's Mayor A, tomorrow there's a motion of no confidence, and then next week there's a new mayor. Hopefully it's political parties trying to settle in and trying to figure out how these coalitions work. But our central message is that South Africans should see that coalitions are unsustainable. Of course, they are part of what our politics, multi-party democracy politics, but they're unsustainable. They create inconsistencies in terms of policies, in terms of service delivery issues, but also in terms of leadership consistency. Before we had coalitions in Johannesburg, in Ekurhuleni, both those metros were the most stable, were, yes, with challenges, but had a very good track record in terms of delivering water, electricity, lights, refuse removal, and so on and so forth. But as a result of some of the instabilities and inconsistencies and anxieties caused by coalition arrangement in these municipalities, we have seen how unstable they have become. And I think it's also a lesson. Imagine if such inconsistency were to happen at a national government level. That's why we want to call on all South Africans to come out and vote on the 29th of May, and obviously to vote for the ANC. And if we have the majority, which we're confident that we're going to be getting, it will help us to avoid all of these challenges that we faced with at a local government elections as it relates to coalitions. Secondly, NSFAS and post-school education and training. I think there's a plan sometime later in the week for the ministry to give a report on the state of progress. But what I can confirm is that we have received 1.9 million applications from students who are wishing to be funded by NSFAS. 1.2 million of those have already been funded. 250,000 have already been rejected, and those who believe they were rejected unfairly have been advised to appeal, and those appeals are being looked at. We are currently processing close to 3,500 applications on a daily basis. We have improved NSFAS capacity to be able to respond. University registration and TVET college registrations have been closed and mopped up, and I think if there was a crisis, you would be the first one to be confronting us about that crisis. But the challenge obviously has been wherein students were demanding that accommodation allowances should be paid into their pockets as opposed to directly to the landlords. We have changed that system because we found out that we give students this amount in terms of allocation for their accommodation, and they use sometimes as little as 10% of that overall amount to pay for their accommodation and pocket the rest of the money. There are pockets of those, most of those in TVET colleges, and we have teams addressing those issues. But in the overall, we believe that this was, albeit some few challenges, probably one of the most peaceful, most stable reopening of the post-school education and training system ever, both at university and also at TVET college and community colleges. We have foot on the ground, people from NSFAS and from our department dealing with specific queries and basically mopping up whatever other challenge. But as I said, more details later in the week. Thank you.
Thank you very much, members of the panel, and thanks to you, members of the media. This now brings us to the end of this presser. Thank you very much.